the social justice aspects behind NADA, I think it's obviously an inherently very political, treatment because of what it treats. Addiction has been a very manufactured kind of vice that has been weaponized against, low income, communities of color. And we've seen the height of that now with the fentanyl crisis. I guess the negligence on the part of like the government, like at least here, the state government in California, misallocation of funds towards, like the types of treatments that are available, seeing NADA as a direct threat to the pharmaceutical, industry. That has been an issue for NADA to kind of expand its vision because they're so strict in certain states around the regulations of who can practice, and how in a capitalist economy, in a capitalist country that doesn't have universal health care, that these different healthcare providers are in competition with each other, including acupuncturists. And so if you all of a sudden introduce this like low cost, low, highly accessible, form of medicine that anybody can obtain and practice, then that, that throws a huge wrench into like the the bottom line of the corporations that are, they're counting on our dependencies, to be addicted to their products. The development of the protocol was in response to an extremely political time and an extremely political moment, in the heroin epidemic, in New York. And we saw, people mobilizing to create solutions for the suffering that was going on. Peace, everybody. My name is Diego Jimenez. I'm a NADA practitioner and a third-year acupuncture student studying in Oakland, California. I'm also a healing justice coordinator with the Anti-Police Terror Project. And yeah, I've been doing AcuDetox for over a year and a half now. I was trained at New York Harm Reduction Educators with Juan Cortez and at On Point NYC. And really grateful to have had that experience and to be able to share with y'all some of the benefits that have come out of becoming a practitioner. My journey to learning this medicine took a very interesting route. I had my own sort of negative experience with Western medicine. I underwent a procedure for my knee that was surgically repaired. And my experience with the doctor and the hospital was very, very negative and traumatic, and left me kind of looking for answers as to what alternatives were available for me to kind of, seek the healing that I was in need of. And that led me to studying and interning with my uncle, who has a clinic and a practice up in British Columbia. I ended up interning in his clinic one summer, and the things that I was witnessing in that clinic room were so like at odds with everything that I had learned was possible. In the Western world, we're not taught to really diagnose with, emotions or a person's, constitution or their, the level of eye contact that they're making. But all of these things were kind of factored into a clinical, setting and presentation that was extremely effective and transformative for the people that were being treated. And it left a very big impact and impression on me. Coming out of that experience, I was sent home with a set of fire cups. I brought that tool back to my community here in the Bay Area and started just kind of learning with peers about the body, about blood, about qi, about, Chinese medicine, reading books. It just opened up a very beautiful space for us to kind of exchange this care and tenderness, that took us out of the world of just electronics and technology, and brought us into a much more intimate space of learning. I was involved in different community clinics and sharing this medicine with, different organizations and people out here in the Bay Area. And I saw that, there was such a big need for this type of medicine, and that my knowledge was only, was very limited at the time. And so that's what kind of drew me into pursuing a deeper level of training. And then what really set me over the edge and was like, I gotta learn this thing, was watching Dope is Death. And my friend, I'll always remember, my friend put the movie on and he was like, I really think you should watch this. I just went through so many different emotions, and had such a realization during the film that I was like, I immediately started looking for ways to attend an acupuncture Chinese medicine program, and specifically looking for ways to get trained in NADA. At the time, I wasn't really connected to Juan or Dr. Ken or folks that were part of NADA, but I ended up, attending the training over there in Harlem. And that has been one of the biggest steps for me, even as I'm pursuing a master's in Chinese medicine, is just having a specialization in this one tool that can really be used to treat almost everything that we see in clinic going on. And even in a state like California, where it's not legal to practice NADA, even with a certification, due to the regulations and having to be a fully licensed acupuncturist, I've still had incredible experiences with just acupressure and with using ear seeds. And it's brought this element of, kind of just decompressing people's nervous systems, deregulating the sympathetic nervous system, and ushering in this very relaxed state that we call the parasympathetic. Slows the heart rate down, it slows the breathing down, it allows the body to relax and release, get out of its trauma state. And so this has just been an incredible gift to share with the community, with myself. As somebody that has a very overstimulated brain, and it can be very difficult to kind of slow down at times. Just having knowledge of the points, how to activate them, and then learning the tools and the ways that we can do this in a safe, and effective environment has just been an incredible gift, to my life and to many of the lives that have been touched by it. There's been so many profound experiences where this has resulted in a very visceral emotional release. I think one of the amazing things about NADA is that it addresses not only the physiological, aspects of the body and that pertain to addiction and PTSD, but also the emotional component. And so we see the use of Chinese medicine, five element theory, and the ways that these organs have a very close connection with different emotional vibrations. So one example would be the application of an ear seed to the lung point can result in the release of tears, and grief, and just unprocessed sorrow and sadness that is given the opportunity and is given permission to be released. And that's been a very, very powerful and sacred space to share with some of my patients, because it's not common that we are able to hold space for that kind of healing, and you think of us as, we're not trained in talk therapy, we're not trained in these sort of like counseling, techniques that one might think of as a way to get somebody to process their trauma or process their emotions. But just by holding a point and just encouraging a deep breath, that's sometimes all the body really needs in order to let go. So my first experience with nada was, I guess, it made me a believer in Chinese medicine, in acupuncture, because it was the first time that I had really experienced what chi felt like in the body. And it brought me into touch with my body's parasympathetic state. About 5 minutes after receiving the needles, I slipped into this almost trance-like state where, the heart rate levels out, breathing becomes almost effortless, and all the anxieties and, oh, I have this to do tomorrow and I've got this deadline, all of that just kind of melts away. It feels like you're suspended in time and space. And I know that can sound kind of scary to folks. It's like it's actually your body's hormones regulating and balancing each other in a really beautiful way that I can understand why, Matulu and the Young Lords had people lined around the block to receive the treatment, because it does bring about this really harmonizing feeling in the body that it's not to be confused with the high that you receive from using a substance. It's actually the feeling of being in your own body and feeling what it's like to be present with all the sensations, that exist within this vessel and within this mind as well. So I really think it's one of the most humanizing feelings to tap into. It's also, something that for me, I didn't have this big, emotional release like others do, but it did just help me feel like, oh, okay, this is a different realm. This is a different side of my experience that I didn't know I could tap into, that I didn't know was available to me. Making that kind of medicine accessible to people is just it's a huge blessing, and it's incredibly valuable. It's very difficult for a lot of us to just sit still and kind of develop this discipline to achieve those states of being through a meditation state. The acupuncture helps guide us normal humans to that place.